If true crime intrigues you, you're in the right place. Subscribe and follow Left Undone for detailed and interesting podcasts while we explore the current cases shaking the news. This season, Season 1 of Left Undone, we're exploring the Lori Vallow case. Lori Vallow is a mom who won't tell anyone where her children are. Unfortunately, not only are her children missing, but people are dying all around Lori. And interestingly enough, you can go back about 10 years, and there have been mysterious deaths that surround Lori Vallow. Lori Vallow Daybell is involved in a cult. They claim to be Mormon LDS. However, they are an offshoot. They have secret meetings, and they believe in things that are not in line with the teachings of the LDS Church. This is part 35, Lipstick, Lori, and Lawyers. I'm Catherine. Welcome to an episode of Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations. So Lori arrived in Rexburg, Idaho on Thursday. On Friday, she had her court date. People got glimpses of Lori along the way, and spectators along the way in the airport were able to take some little shots, videos of Lori as she boarded planes and as she walked across the tarmac in Los Angeles. They had their phones out and were able to do some filming of Lori with her handcuffs on, and provided these, obviously, over to the general media. So Lori made her little plane change, and then from Los Angeles, she flew directly into Boise, and then again had to change planes in Boise, get on a private jet, which I'm told is the governor's jet, or plane. I wouldn't say it was a jet. It looked more like a plane than a jet. And after she got on that plane, she landed in Rexburg and was greeted by our good friend from East Idaho News, Nate Eaton. So Lori goes on her way with her entourage of police officers, guards. I believe there's a woman guard there because someone has to be able to escort her to the restroom and stuff like that, if she needs to do that, because the men can't do that. Here's a news clip.
She is the mom of two missing kids with ties to Arizona.
So she's now in the process of being brought to Idaho from Hawaii to face charges. She was recently arrested on several charges, including felony child abandonment.
Yeah, and just moments ago, the FBI put out some new information about the case. Justin Lum is live in Rexburg, Idaho, with the latest for us this afternoon. Justin, this case has been so interesting to follow, and you've got pretty much everything on it coming up to now.
Troy, Renee, like you said, another big development, breaking news just into our newsroom from the FBI in Salt Lake City, asking the public for tips on the two missing children, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. We do know they visited Yellowstone National Park on September 8th, and you have to get a good look at these photos from that day. The FBI says their mom, Lori Vallow, her brother, Alex Cox, and the kids drove to the park in this 2017 Ford F-150 pickup. The license plate, CPQ-UINT, an Arizona license plate. And you should be looking at photos of the kids. And that day is the last time Tylee Ryan, the 17-year-old, was seen. JJ was last seen on September 23rd in Rexburg. If you visited the park on September 8th, authorities would like your help, whether you have photos or video. You can call 1-800-THE-LOST. Meanwhile, Last night, before an 11:30 p.m. flight on Hawaiian time, Lori is seen walking out of this room where authorities held her. She is handcuffed and wearing civilian clothing. Then she got on a Delta plane, and I'm told she sat in the back row for this red-eye flight. And at around 7 a.m. Pacific time, Lori is getting off the plane at LAX with 4 law enforcement officials on the tarmac. Then she's eventually held in an unmarked car before the next flight. Kevin Lunt took these videos. He says many passengers on the flight out of Kauai recognized Lori Vallow right away.
She seemed to be pretty calm. I think that's probably the best word for it. Probably just pretty calm. I wouldn't say, maybe even nonchalant about it. Just seemed to be something that was happening, but she didn't seem to be in any sort of distress.
And back to the investigation into Yellowstone. Remember, Alex Cox died in December. The cause is still unknown, still waiting for that autopsy report. Now his sister, Lori, will be arriving here soon in Rexburg, and we will keep you updated on the end of this extradition process. Live in Rexburg, Justin Lum, Fox 10 News.
And there is Lori's plane landing in Rexburg. So the much anticipated arrival of Lori from Hawaii to Rexburg, Idaho happened on Thursday. So here comes the plane taxiing in on the tarmac, and lucky for East Idaho News, Nate was able to be right there when Lori got off the propeller plane. He waits a few minutes and has his microphone ready to go. And you know, between Nate and Justin, I don't know who I'm going to vote for, because they're both pretty amazing as at what they are doing with this story. And I'm really impressed. They're bold and they're brave and they're getting the story. So as Nate waits for the plane to open, there's a car going around the side there. That car is the car she actually does go to the jail in, even though they wind up putting a decoy white van telling everybody she's in that, which is a little odd to me, to be honest. She's a prisoner, not a celebrity. So here comes Lori getting off the plane. Nate's ready. He's gonna go up there right now, if they let him come close, as Lori gets off the plane. And I feel like we're waiting for somebody like J-Lo to come off the plane or something. And honestly, I think Lori's feeling pretty celeb right now.
How does it feel to be back in Idaho? What do you want to say to your kids? What do you want to say to Colby? Anything you want to say to Chad, Lori? Any message you have for people watching? Why won't you talk, Lori? Why won't you talk to us? Why won't you talk to the world? This could all be over if you would just answer some questions, Lori. What do you have to say? Did you commit any crimes, Lori? What message do you have for the world, Lori? I know you can hear me. There's a lot of people that want to hear what you have to say. We're ready to listen. JJ and Tylee deserve your answers, Lori.
And we begin the news at 10 tonight on the eve of Lori Vallow's highly anticipated appearance in an Idaho court. The mother of two missing children is back in Rexburg tonight on charges linked to their disappearance.
It is a long, convoluted story that started back in September when those two children, JJ and Tylee, went missing. In less than 24 hours, prosecutors will have a chance to dig for answers about the many questions surrounding this case.
But before that, it was a long process to bring her back to the Gem State. Our Misty England has been in Rexburg all day following the case. Misty, it's time to catch us up on what's happened today.
Well, Mark and Kim, we waited hours outside the jail, which we are still outside of right now here in Madison County. Numerous media outlets and onlookers actually waited, hoping to catch a glimpse of Lori. We were never able to get a clear shot at her. She was kept in a van every time she was moved, so we didn't get a clear shot, but we did glimpse her being moved in. And of course, she was processed and booked here into the Madison County Jail earlier this afternoon around 5 o'clock. Now let's take a look at how we got to this point tonight. Lori Vallow flew out of Kauai, Hawaii late Wednesday night and into LAX in Los Angeles. She made her way to Boise, where KTVB got exclusive video of her at the airport getting off the plane and into a black SUV. From there, Lori was sent on a plane owned by Idaho State Police to the Rexburg Airport. And then the Madison County Sheriff's Office says she was brought in this white van to a jail carport, where she was eventually booked and processed. Several media outlets and onlookers waited outside the jail, including JJ Vallow's grandparents, who spoke in an interview about how they don't recognize Lori.
This Lori that we're seeing on TV is not the Lori that we knew and that we loved. I don't know Lori. At this point, I look in her eyes and I don't see anything.
The FBI on Thursday asking for the public's help in the case, requesting anyone who visited Yellowstone National Park on September 8, 2019, send photos or videos that might show Lori Vallow and her two kids, JJ and Tylee, or their uncle, Alex Cox, who traveled with them. Law enforcement says that trip was the last time Tylee was seen. JJ went missing just weeks later.
I feel sorry for her, but I don't feel sorry for her enough to let her get away.
All the grandparents want to come out of Lori's time in court is the answer to one question.
Open your mouth and tell us the truth. Where are they?
Yeah, just tell us where the kids are.
Now, if you do have any photos or videos from Yellowstone that you think could help the investigation, the FBI has set up a website where you can submit those to, and you can find those details on ktvb.com. Now, as for Lori, she will be here in the Madison County Courthouse, which is just off to my right side. She'll be there at 2 o'clock tomorrow. It will be her first appearance in an Idaho courtroom. And one thing that we're expecting to hear tomorrow, based on documents that have been filed by her attorneys, is a request to once again try and lower that current $5 million bond for something that they consider more reasonable. Again, 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, Lori Vallow making her appearance in an Idaho court, and of course, we'll be here live to get that coverage for you. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Misty England, thank you. And by the way, you can find all of our coverage on this case right now by texting the word missing to the number on your screen.
And Justin Lum raised a few concerns, especially this one. The white van that she came in, that was all over the news. Justin says, remember the white van I told you Lori Vallow came in when she arrived at the Madison County Jail? Well, video is circulating of Vallow being dropped off at the jail in this Ford Expedition. Photo via East Idaho News. Why lie? Was this a decoy? Moments after the white van arrived, the PIO with Madison County Sheriff's Office told us to our faces that Vallow was inside. Madison County Sheriff's Office tells me it is possible Lori Vallow was taken into jail by the way of a Ford Expedition and not the transport van that drove into the Sallyport. The reason being safety concerns. We as the media are waiting for a clear answer on Vallow's arrival plan. Transparency is key, so that we can provide the truth to the public. Preferential treatment? You tell us. And then John Notzel from Fox 10, he's a photo chief there. He said, let's not forget that Chad Daybell came in and left the courthouse through an entrance closed off to everyone else. No other family members or attorneys received that kind of treatment. Something stinks, and I again call shenanigans. So now Lori's gotten this preferential treatment, and Chad, but that's not it. Because if my suspicions are correct and many other people's, Lori was able to have hair and makeup done for her court appearance. She's a prisoner, not a celebrity. Does anybody else think this is odd, weird, and not okay? The Paul Mitchell van was sitting out in front of the courthouse the day she went there. She came in with makeup on and her hair done. Her hair was fixed. She didn't do that in a jail cell. Okay, I'll move on. There's Kay and Larry arriving to court. There is Colby and his wife, and coming up behind, I believe, at least one of Charles's sons are there, and I thought Cheryl was there, Charles's ex-wife, and Brandon Bardot winds up sitting right next to Kay and Larry. And yeah, so they're all there. They're all there together, arriving in the courtroom, waiting for the lady in the orange jumpsuit to show up. Orange jumpsuit, pink handcuffs. She should be arriving any minute. That's Brandon next to Kay. That's Larry and Kay. And one of the residents of Hawaii gave them these leis. They came to Idaho and gave them the leis to give to JJ and Tylee. The leis they're wearing, the Hawaiian leis that Kay and Larry are wearing. So no Melanie, Brandon's ex-wife Melanie, she's not there. No Zalima, Alex's widow, isn't there. And just a crowd of people. So many, mostly probably family. And oh, and here comes Chad. Hey, Chatty boy. Chatty boy. There's the potato. He's still looking rather trim. Hair, still getting the hair styled without the woman there to do it for him. It's looking okay with the hair. I think she trained him well. In case I'm gone someday, Chad. We certainly do talk about hair a lot. But they're just filing into the courtroom. And like you guys know, I'm not a newscaster. I just try to find some bits and pieces of this stuff that we can elaborate on a little bit and look at a little closer than, the 2 or 3 minutes that the news can. So I'm not sure. I think that's Chad's lawyer with him. And waiting the big arrival of the wifey, Mrs. Daybell, as she wishes to be called in court. Don't know where to look. Look this way? Should I look that way? Maybe I'll look over. No, not over there. Wait. Okay. Hold on. I'll look at these people coming in. Now, everyone said I was wrong in the Hawaii court about that guy that was identical to Jason Mao. But that could be Christopher right there with the beard. Look at this. Look at this comparison. This was a recent picture of him. I don't know if it's the most recent picture of him. I'm not convinced that it's not him. But I would think he'd be over there on the other side with Chatty Boy. But who knows? I don't know. It's not like it's a wedding where you have to sit on one side or the other. And I'm sure the court people tell people where to sit. And again, since we're protecting poor Chad, because he's so, celebrity status here, he may not let him sit with anybody. Except for his lawyer. Okay, Larry. Waiting patiently. Everybody's waiting. for the big moment. I'm sure Lori is fluffing her hair or something back there, or adding that extra layer of lipstick maybe. Apparently you can get makeup in jail. You can buy it through commissary. Now, she wasn't there long enough to buy anything through anything, so I'm still leaning towards either some cellmate giving her jail makeup or that Paul Mitchell van doing something. But her hair definitely looks like it's been fixed. The roots are fine. I don't see gray at the top when she comes in. I don't know. You'll see in a minute. The big team of defense lawyers, 3 big lawyers for a woman who won't tell anyone where her kids are. This is some serious business, and Lori is standing her ground, and she needs to spend lots and lots of money on big-time criminal defense lawyers because she won't tell anybody where her kids are. Does that make sense to anyone else but me? I think it makes sense to a lot of us. Why would you hire 3 lawyers? Why would you stay in jail and hire 3 lawyers when you're Lori Vallow who loves money and just not tell people where your kids are because they're just away because I'm keeping them from Kay. I'm keeping them from Kay because she took the $1 million, but I'm not going to give anybody my kids because my kids are hidden away because you took the $1 million, and I don't have to tell anybody where my kids are because I'm just going to spend a whole bunch of money on lawyers instead, okay? Because I'm Lori. Then I was thinking, what if we're all crazy and they are able to go through this portal, you know? Hey, you never know. Stranger things have happened, right? So I picture a portal like that beautiful one, but I've been told that this is the portal, in fact. It matches. Forget that purple pretty portal. Forget the purple pretty portal. Let's take an orange potty portal. Or how about your true colors? They found your true colors. Lori, how about that? Sarcasm aside, I love this. Nate posted this. Where are the kids? This is perfect. This says it all right here. People want to know where the kids are more than Lori wants to know where her own kids are. You go to the trouble of making cupcakes about this and put them in the stores, the local stores. There's something serious wrong with Lori where this could be what it came down to for her children. Lo and behold, the grand entrance. Notice how she glances around. And this interaction when she gets there to her lawyers, like they're her long-lost friends. Would you like some water? No, thank you. How's your day? I'm good. How's yours? Oh, hi. Hi, lawyer man. Okay. Whatever you say. Sounds good. All right. Does my hair look okay? I think it does. I think I got it better. It didn't look okay back in Hawaii. Oh, all right. I'll stand up. And I can't even cross my arms this time because I got pink handcuffs on. All right. I'm not going to stop reading Lori's mind, but Lori's in court and it's about to get started. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because you guys obviously probably saw all the highlights on the news, but the judge is going to go through his rules right now and then, you know, about the rules of the courtroom and everybody needs to follow the rules or they'll be removed, yada, yada, yada. Then he's going to go over the counts and Lori's going to say, yep, she understands.
Today, regarding disruptive behavior. Any activity or behavior which is considered disruptive, by the court will result in removal from the courtroom. Any spectator who creates a visual or auditory disturbance of the court proceedings may be removed from the courtroom and/or the building at any time at the discretion of me or court security. We'll now call the case. Madison County Magistrate Division of the District Court, CR 3320-302, State of Idaho versus Lori Noreen Vallow. Counsel for Ms. Vallow appears at the defense table. We have Ms. Elcox, Mr. Webb, and Mr. Means. Counsel for the state is Mr. Wood and Mr. Rammel. This is the date and time set for an initial appearance. The defendant is also present here in the courtroom. Counsel for defense, in the court pleadings, it designates Ms. Vallow, aka Ms. Daybell. How would your client like to be referred to by the court?
Mrs. Daybell, please, Your Honor.
Right. Ms. Daybell, do you read, speak, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Ms. Daybell, did you fill out a notification of rights form with your counsel prior to the hearing here today?
Yes.
Do you understand your legal rights here today?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about the form that you filled out or your rights?
No.
All right, we'll proceed forward then. Ms. Daybell, it's my understanding that you've hired these three attorneys that are with you here today, and that's your position that you'd like to retain your own private counsel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you get a copy of the criminal complaint as well as the arrest warrant that has been issued in this matter?
Yes.
Ms. Daybell, I can read the criminal complaint in its entirety, or we can summarize it going through each of the charges. Which would you prefer?
We will waive a formal reading, Your Honor.
We'll just go through the counts then, one by one, as well as the penalties. This criminal complaint was filed here in Madison County on February 18th, 2020. It is State of Idaho versus Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell. It charges the defendant with 5 different counts. The first count is desertion and non-support of children or spouse. That count is a felony under Idaho law, Idaho Code 18-401, Section 1. The punishment is up to a 4-year maximum imprisonment in the state penitentiary and or up to a $500 fine. It designates or alleges that the defendant, Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, on or between the 23rd of September 2019 and the 18th day of February 2020 in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, did desert a child under the age of 18, to wit, JV, date of birth 5/25/12, who was dependent upon the defendant for care, education, or support with the intent to abandon JV. Ms. Daybell, do you understand what count 1 alleges, as well as the maximum penalties?
Yes.
Under count 2, it is that same charge, desertion and non-support of children or spouse. It's also a felony under Idaho Code 18-401, subsection 1. It is punishable by up to 14 years in the state penitentiary and up to or up to a $500 fine. It alleges that the defendant, Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, on or between the 8th day of September 2019 and the 18th day of February 2020 in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, did desert a child under the age of 18, to wit, TR, with a date of birth of 9/24/2002, who was dependent on the defendant for care, education, or support with the intent to abandon TR. Ms. Daybell, do you understand what's been charged in count 2 as well as the maximum penalties?
Yes.
Ms. Daybell, count 3 is a misdemeanor under Idaho law. It's the charge of resisting and or obstructing an officer, a violation of Idaho Code 18-705. It's punishable by up to 1 year in the county jail and up to a $1,000 fine. It alleges that the defendant, Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, on or about the 26th day of November 2019 in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, did willfully delay and or obstruct a public officer, to wit, Lieutenant Ron Ball of the Rexburg Police Department, in the discharge of his office by giving false information regarding the whereabouts of a child, JV, date of birth 5/25/2012, and thereby delaying the search for JV. Ms. Daybell, do you understand the charge in count 3 as well as the maximum penalties?
Yes, I understand.
Count 4 is also a misdemeanor. It's a charge of solicitation. It carries with it up to 6 months in the county jail and a $500 fine. It's a violation of Idaho Code 18-2001. It alleges that the defendant, Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, on or about the 26th day of November 2019 in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, with the purpose of promoting or facilitating the commission of a crime, encouraged and or requested Melanie Gibb to engage in conduct which would constitute the crime of resisting and or obstructing an officer. By requesting and or encouraging Melanie Gibb to give false information to law enforcement regarding the whereabouts of a child, JV, date of birth 5/25/2012. Ms. Daybell, do you understand the charge of count 4 as well as the maximum penalty?
Yes.
The last count is count 5. It's a misdemeanor under Idaho law. It's a charge of contempt, a violation of Idaho Code 18-1801, subsection 4. It's punishable by up to 6 months in the county jail and up to a $1,000 fine. It alleges that the defendant, Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, on or about the 30th day of January 2020, in the county of Madison, state of Idaho, did willfully disobey a lawful court order in Madison County, case number CV 3320-45, by failing to physically produce minor children JV and TR to the Rexburg Police Department and or Idaho Department of Health and Welfare within 5 days of service of the order. Ms. Daybell, do you understand what's been alleged in count 5 as well as the maximum penalty?
I understand.
Ms. Daybell, do you understand that all of those charges and their maximum penalties could run consecutively, one after the other, or they could run concurrently, meaning at the same time? Do you understand that?
Yes.
In addition to the rights form that you've already filled out, pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 5, I'm also going to give you the following rights. Number 1, you are not required to make a statement, and that any statement made by you today can be used against you in court. Number 2, you're entitled to know the nature of the charges that have been brought against you, which we've already gone through. Number 3, you are entitled to bail. You have a right to bail. Number 4, you have the right to be represented by counsel. Number 5, you have a right to a preliminary hearing. That preliminary hearing must be set within 14 days if you're incarcerated. It can be set within 21 days if you're not incarcerated. That preliminary hearing is a probable cause hearing where the state will have the burden of showing probable cause that the 2 felonies have been committed in order for you to be bound over to the district court. You also have the right to communicate with counsel and immediate family, and that reasonable means will be provided for you to do so. Do you understand those legal rights, Ms. Daybell? All right, Ms. Daybell, now we'll schedule the preliminary hearing. I've met with counsel in chambers prior to coming out here, and there's a few dates that I believe did work. Mr. Wood, on behalf of the state, you designated that the state needs approximately 2 weeks to be ready. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you also designated that the state needed 2 days for the preliminary hearing to take place. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does the defense want to comment as far as how much time they need to be ready, as well as how much time the preliminary hearing will take?
Your Honor, I think 2 weeks is more than sufficient, and I agree with the proposed 2-day setting.
Okay. All right. The court has available March 18th and 19th. Does that work for counsel for the defense?
We'll make it work, Your Honor.
It does, Your Honor. Your Honor, the state may have an issue getting one of our witnesses over here from Hawaii on the 18th. We had asked previously that it be set for the 19th and 20th and would continue that request.
Mr. Wood, if we made some arrangements so that if your witness could only be here by the 19th, that we allowed that witness to testify on the 19th, would that appease your concern?
Yes, Your Honor.
Does the defense have any objection to that, to moving things around a little bit so that that witness can testify on the 19th and not on the 18th?
No, Your Honor.
All right. We'll schedule then the preliminary hearing for March 18th and 19th here at the Madison County Courthouse. We'll schedule that right at 9 a.m. The court notes that there was a motion for a bond reduction that was filed by the defense in this matter approximately 2 days ago. Has the prosecution received a copy of that motion to reduce bond?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Wood, is the prosecution objecting to that being heard here today?
No, you're not. No, we're not, Your Honor.
Right. We'll hear the motion to reduce bond then today. Ms. Elcox, are you going to be arguing that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed with your argument. I want you to know that I have reviewed your motion. I've also reviewed Title 19, Chapter 29, and Idaho Criminal Rule 46.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, we are asking that the court today set bail in the amount of $10,000 consistent with what Lori's attorney in Hawaii requested. In the event that the court is not inclined to set bond in the amount of $10,000, we are asking that the court consider setting a bond no higher than $50,000 in this case. Lori is presumed innocent as she stands before the court today. The fact that she is presumed innocent is not a loose guideline. It's a foundational principle of the American criminal justice system. Under both the 8th Amendment to the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 6 of the Idaho Constitution, excessive bail is prohibited. Judge, you are the gatekeeper in this case. You're the guardian of the presumption of innocence and the constitutional rights afforded to Lori. This is not a court of public opinion. This is a court of law. And are we going to let our citizens' rights be dictated by what appears in the media? Bail must be set in an amount that assures Lori's appearance in court and is commensurate with the charges that she is actually facing today in court. A $5 million bond is unreasonable, it's astronomically excessive, and is the functional equivalent of holding Lori without bond. This is a violation of Lori's constitutional rights. I can tell the court that in my almost decade of practicing law as both a prosecutor and a defense attorney, I have never seen the crime of desertion charged. This is because abandonment issues are generally dealt with under the Child Protection Act, not the criminal code. But even under the desertion criminal statute, which Lori has been charged with and faces these charges here today, the maximum fine, as Your Honor said today in court, that can be ordered is $500. Yet her bail is set at $5 million, 10,000 times the maximum fine in this case. In a recent Madison County murder case, the bond was set at $1 million. In the 5 counts the court read today, charged in the criminal case, there is not one allegation of a crime of violence. A bond set this high denies Lori due process and fundamentally deprives her of her ability to meaningfully participate in the defense of these allegations she faces. It is clear that the government just needed to find a charge that would fit in this case because of all of the media attention surrounding this matter. The last thing that should happen is to allow this case to be tried in the media and to allow public opinion and rampant speculation to dictate how this case proceeds through the judicial system. Considering the purpose of bail, to which Lori is entitled as a matter of right, Idaho Criminal Rule 46, as Your Honor referenced, lists the factors that the court should consider when determining the appropriate bail amount to set in this case. Pursuant to those factors, Lori's bond should simply be reduced in the amount requested because she has no criminal history whatsoever. In fact, Lori took the initiative while she was in Hawaii to contact law enforcement and say, in the event that a warrant issues, she will voluntarily turn herself in. Police did not afford her that opportunity to do so. They created a spectacle out of the situation when they knew that Lori had contacted law enforcement and indicated that she would turn herself in. She waived extradition in this case. She did not fight returning to Idaho. She has hired 3 criminal defense attorneys from 2 different law firms, and she is dedicated to vigorously defending against these allegations. We, as her attorneys, also agree to assure Lori's presence in court. Chad, Lori's husband, has returned to Idaho to his home of his own volition, and Lori and Chad maintain a residence locally. That home was purchased over 5 years ago, or approximately 5 years ago. Chad, their children, their children's spouses, and their grandchildren are all located locally. Furthermore, Lori's passport is expired. She has no flight risk whatsoever, and this assertion that when this investigation began, when there was initial law enforcement contact, that she fled to Hawaii is unequivocally false. That was a planned move. We believe that the evidence will show that, will establish that. It was a planned move to a place that she had previously lived, and she moved to the exact same neighborhood in which she previously resided. Furthermore, Lori's history demonstrates that she has a consistency in her residences. She lived in Austin, Texas for almost 20 years, worked at the same salon for 15 years. She then moved to Chandler, Arizona, where she resided for 5 years in the same house. She worked as the director for Broadway Kids, an organization that puts on summer camps for children, and she also taught group fitness. Between 2014 and 2018, she lived in Hawaii until she returned there this fall. Lori's history demonstrates that she has consistent, long-term residence and a long-term employment in those places that she's lived. Further, Your Honor, there is probably no greater assurance that Lori will appear before this court and any other court assigned to preside over this case because of the droves of people that she has following her every move, even before she was charged. She has TV cameras in her face. She has people following her. It is built-in pretrial monitoring to a level I have never seen before. It's more effective than any sort of surveillance that law enforcement could put on her. She could not go anywhere without cameras and people scrutinizing her every single move. She poses no flight risk whatsoever. She is intent on defending against these allegations and proving that she is innocent, despite the fact it's the state's burden to prove her guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If the intent of the high bond as originally set in this case was to ensure that Lori was transported back to Idaho, she is back. And as I stated, she is eager to defend against these charges. Regardless as to whether she has been tried and convicted in the court of public opinion, Your Honor, here today, Lori is innocent. Lori will absolutely abide by any pretrial release conditions, any sort of monitoring that the court requires, but there is simply no basis for a bond this high, and it must be reduced given the charges that she's facing. For those reasons, Your Honor, we would ask that you grant the defendant's request to reduce bond.
Ms. Elcox, just so I'm clear, if your client were to bond out, I don't need her address, but where would be her expected place of residence be?
She'll be residing locally, Your Honor. I can provide that address to the court under seal if the court would like to do so, but given the media attention, I would rather not put that on the record.
I understand. Thank you. Mr. Wood, do you wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. I'll address counsel's comments first on how we got here and why the bond for the bail was set at what it's at. This case didn't start as a criminal case, Your Honor. It started as a report of 2 missing children who are still missing. November 25th, Rexburg police late in the day get notice that this young child is missing. Within 24 hours, they respond. When they respond, they're given verifiably false information by the defendant. And so the next day they obtain warrants. and to search the residence for the child. And at that point, the defendant is gone. Now, they say it's a planned move. Maybe they did plan to move to Hawaii. However, they clearly left very quickly as soon as they were contacted by law enforcement. The vast majority of their belongings were still in that apartment. And so the investigation continued. A Child Protection Act was filed, and an order was given for Lori to produce the children, for the defendant to produce the children, which she did not do. I'll address this issue that she informed law enforcement that she would turn herself in. It's kind of hard to trust someone to turn themselves in on a warrant when a simple welfare check caused that person to leave. Your Honor, as counsel stated, Idaho Criminal Rule 46 lists the factors to be considered at setting bail. So we'll go down through those. The defendant's employment status and history. As far as we're aware, she's not presently employed. No argument can be made that she's at a risk of losing employment. Their financial condition. We are aware that the defendant's new husband received a substantial sum of life insurance proceeds from the death of his wife last October. Obviously, those funds provide them with the ability to relocate quickly and to stay away from Idaho, which we believe they've already done. The nature and extent of the defendant's family relationships. The defendant's only family here is her new husband. And it's important for the court to consider that at a bail reduction hearing in Hawaii, very recently, the defendant's attorney represented to the court that her husband lived in Hawaii, not in Idaho. Now, we understand that the defendant does have a house here, close to here. However, the fact that the defendant represented to a Hawaii court that they lived in Hawaii shows that they consider their ties not in Idaho, but in Hawaii. And in terms of her past residences, if we go back to the last year, it gets a little more concerning. In regards, since this last summer, the defendant has lived in Arizona, Idaho, and Hawaii. And quite frankly, the circumstances under which she left Arizona, which was soon after the killing of her estranged husband by her brother, and the circumstances in which she left Idaho, which was the same night Rexburg police did a welfare check on her, give the state serious concern that she is a flight risk. Factor 4 is the defendant's character and reputation. Since this last summer, there has been a clear and alarming pattern in the defendant's life. There are literally 3 active investigations of suspicious deaths that she is related to. And I want to be clear, Your Honor, we're not saying she's been charged in those. And we're not saying the court should treat her as such. However, she is related to each of those deaths, and it is alarming to the state. As we've said before, Your Honor, the defendant tried to mislead Rexburg law enforcement about the whereabouts of her children. In furtherance of that, she tried to convince a family friend to tell the Rexburg police that the children were with her in Arizona, even though they weren't. And that, Your Honor, the defendant has a history of defying court orders. In the child protection case associated with this case, she refused to produce her children as ordered. In a 2009 child custody case in Travis County, Texas, the defendant was found guilty of 7 different counts of civil contempt. Factor 5, the persons who agreed to assist the defendant in attending the court at the proper time. Again, Your Honor, that's pretty much limited to her new husband. And due to the fact that he and the defendant left so abruptly before, we don't have a lot of assurance from that. Factor 6, the nature of the current charge and any mitigating or aggravating factors that may bear on the likelihood of conviction and the possible penalty. In regard to those factors, Your Honor, the state would first point out the language of Idaho Code 18401, which states that it is a felony for anyone having a child under the age of 18 years dependent upon him or her for care, education, or support, who deserts such child in any manner whatever with intent to abandon it is a felony. In any manner whatever. That's a broad statute, Your Honor. It's broad because it deals with protecting children. So the aggravating factors bearing on the likelihood of conviction in this case include the following: that the defendant established a residence in Madison County, Idaho, with 2 minor children. Those children ended up being reported as missing, and the defendant left the state without them. The defendant defied a court order to produce those children. One of those minor children is only 7 years old and has special needs which require medication and medical attention. Both of the minor children received Social Security benefits, and the defendant continued collecting the children's Social Security benefits into her own account, both after the last known sightings of the children in Madison County and continuing into Hawaii. And it's important to note that case law related to the desertion of a minor child and Idaho Code 19302 make it clear that this court has jurisdiction over acts of desertion both here in Madison County and continuing into Hawaii. And the most aggravating factor, Your Honor, one that's quite frankly heartbreaking and is the reason why there's so much media attention, is that the children are still missing. And the defendant has not only misled law enforcement in their efforts to find the children, but she has completely and utterly refused to aid in any attempts to find the children, even before charges were filed. Another factor bearing on the likelihood of conviction is that Idaho Code 18403 and 18405 and case law related to the statute under which she was charged make it clear that proving abandonment or desertion is prima facie evidence that the desertion was willful, which makes it easier for the state to obtain a conviction. In regards to the sentence, should the defendant be convicted, and we believe she will, the defendant could face up to 30 years in prison, which is certainly a motive to flee. As far as the defendant's prior criminal record, Your Honor, as we aren't aware of any criminal history. However, as we discussed earlier, she does have a history of defying court orders. Factor number 8, any facts indicating the possibility of violations of law if the defendant is released without restrictions. And Your Honor, we would just say past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. She's already disobeyed this court's order, and so we have no reason to believe that if she were released that she wouldn't continue in unlawful behavior. Factor 9, any other facts tending to indicate that the defendant has strong ties to the community and is not likely to flee the jurisdiction. At this point, Your Honor, with her 2 children missing, the defendant's only local tie is her husband, who again, as of a couple of weeks ago, she claimed that he lived in Hawaii. Factor 10, what reasonable restrictions, conditions, and prohibitions should be placed on the defendant's activities, movements, associations, and residences. Your Honor, should the bail be lowered, or should the defendant be able to make bail, we would ask for the following restrictions: that she be limited to living in Madison or Fremont County, Idaho; that she be required to wear some sort of GPS location device, and we're aware that those can be obtained from a bondsman; and that the defendant, if she does have a passport, that she surrender it to the court. In conclusion, Your Honor, the defendant has established through her own behavior that she cannot be trusted to obey a court order or to appear at future court hearings. The state believes that bail should be confirmed where it is. We have no confidence that the defendant will stay in the area and appear for future hearings should she be released.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Ms. Elcox, this is your motion. I'll give you the last word if you'd like it.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I indicated, Lori is more than willing to abide by any restriction that the court puts on her if the court so chooses to do so. The prosecutor stated that past behavior is essentially the best predictor of future behavior. I would point to the fact that Lori, in all of the decades that she has been alive, does not have a single criminal law violation whatsoever. It goes without saying that she also does not have any failure to appear in any criminal case. The prosecutor referenced the specific code language that she is charged with. I would note that this statute doesn't have a definition for abandon. However, the Child Protective Act does. And in those statutes, the prima facie evidence of abandonment is established when there hasn't been the parental relationship hasn't been maintained for a year. Pursuant to the charging language and the time period that the state chose to charge in this case, Lori isn't even at half that time. So I respectfully disagree with the prosecutor's assertion that Lori will be convicted of these charges. I have represented to the court, as I have a duty of candor to the tribunal, that Lori will be residing locally. And as I indicated, I'm happy to provide that address to Your Honor under seal to protect Lori in this case. The prosecutor has gone through a litany of allegations for which she is not facing any sort of criminal charges whatsoever, and not criminal charges in this case. those should not be considered by the court for purposes of this case and setting bond pursuant to Idaho, the factors listed in Idaho Criminal Rule 46. We would ask that you grant the defendant's request and set bail as requested in this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Alcox. The court has listened carefully to the argument of both the state and the defense. The court has reviewed in detail and in full Rule 46 of the Idaho Criminal Rules. The court has also reviewed the Idaho Bail Act, Title 19, Chapter 29, specifically under 1929-04. It designates that the court may release a person on his own recognizance or set an amount of bail and may impose any conditions of release. In making these determinations, the court shall consider the following objectives. Number 1, ensuring the appearance of the defendant. Number 2, ensuring the integrity of the court process, including the right of the defendant to bail as constitutionally provided. Number 3, ensuring the protection of victims and witnesses. And number 4, ensuring public safety. The court has taken all 4 of those factors into consideration, as well as all 10 factors under subsection C under the Idaho Criminal Rules 46. And based upon the argument that I've heard here today, the court is going to reduce bail. I'm going to reduce bail to the amount of $1 million. I recognize all of the factors that have been looked at here. One specific thing that the court notes in setting such a high bail amount is that there is a pending court order, and to my knowledge there has been nothing set forth regarding obedience to that court order pertaining to lining the court out with information on where the 2 children are at the Department of Health and Welfare or at the Rexburg Police Department. So with that, bail will be set at $1 million. If bail is posted, there will also be the following conditions that are ordered. Number 1, there will need to be a waiver of extradition signed from any and all jurisdictions to be brought back here before the court. Number 2, I'm going to require that Ms. Daybell not leave Bonneville, Jefferson, Madison, and Fremont counties. If she were to leave any of those counties while this case is pending without permission or authorization from the court, that would be a violation of the terms of bond and release. I'm also going to order that there be an ankle monitor that is placed on the defendant. That will need to be all lined out before she's eligible to bail out. It will be monitoring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as to where the defendant is. And then lastly, I'm going to order as a term of any release or bail that the defendant appear for all court appearances, that she maintain contact with her counsel, and that she abide by all the laws of this state, this country, this county, and this city. Mr. Wood, do you have any questions about my ruling regarding the reduction of that bail?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Alcox.
Just briefly, Your Honor, does the court have a specific form for the waiver of extradition you would like us to use?
I think the jail has one. Does the jail have a form that they have? If you'll communicate with the jail, I think they do have a form. If not, why don't you submit the one after you've gotten approval from Mr. Wood? You can submit that after she signed it, and the court will review to make sure it meets my satisfaction.
Yes, Your Honor. And do you have, would you like us to coordinate setting up the ankle monitor through the jail, or do you have a specific agency you would like us to use?
You can coordinate with the jail and or the sheriff's office. They'll know that information. They may have someone that they usually use. I'm not sure of that. If you have a preference, you could provide that information to them, and if there's an issue, it can be brought before me for my approval. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
I believe that takes care of everything that we're here for today. In a moment, I'm going to leave. When I do that, the audience is going to be asked to rise. I'm going to leave the courtroom. After I leave, I'm instructing everybody to be seated again. There will be the removal of the defendant from the courtroom, and then everybody will be excused row by row pursuant to court personnel here today. With that, we'll be in recess.
All right. Okay, so you have the family want to leave first, out this side door here.
Okay, family's leaving. Now wait for it. Wait for it. Look, look. Did you see that? Did you see that look that Colby gave Chad? He is not happy. Colby is pissed. Bye, Chad. I hope you find your portal. Now, I'm going to say this again. My channel, my podcast, is to look at this in a different way than news media looks at it. Looking at it how the general public, what goes through our minds. This is how we think about stuff like this. Some of it is unbelievable when you're sitting out here in the world and you're going, what? How does that happen? How is there a mom that can just put her kid somewhere out of jail? How can she just marry this dude? How can they just be like, oh, we're great, we're happy, we moved? You know, yes, I am going to be sarcastic. And if you want regular news and information on this without opinions and speculation and the alleged this and that, you got to go watch the news for that because they're a lot less biased and they're journalists. Me, I'm a mom, so I have a bias when it comes to that. My kids, I had to raise them from conception until adulthood, and I still have to interact with them every day. Colby needs a mom. I'm telling you, that young man still needs his mom. And she is off in portals and Kauai, and her other children are nowhere to be found. So yeah, me and the people that I talk about this case with, and we're sarcastic about it because we're pissed. This is messed up. And as of today, Monday and Friday was the court date, but as of today, Monday, March 9th, it is almost 2 a.m. and Lori still hasn't bonded out. So I'm crossing my fingers and toes that it is difficult to bond out. According to Justin Lum, there's conditions. First, you got to find somebody that's willing to put up the bond. Second of all, you have to have the $1 million in assets and come up with $100,000 cash. So is somebody really going to take that bet on Lori? It's not looking like it right now. Does she have a friend that'll put up $1 million in assets? Not looking like it right now. I'm going to end right now. Thank you again for watching Missing, Murder, Vanished. This was part 35. Lori Vallow, lipstick, lawyers, and portals. Why not? If you're subscribed to YouTube, please join our Facebook group at Left Undone Discussion Group. There's questions you need to answer in order to be approved, and we need to know your YouTube username. Also, if you have questions or want to tell me anything or add anything or have suggestions, email address is reapharmony@gmail.com, and you can always donate to my Patreon account or to PayPal me /catfish. Thanks again for watching. This has been an episode of Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations. I'm Catherine.
You're kidding me. Can you see it?
I could slow it down to about... She jumped in already.
Welcome to Fox 10 News at noon, and we begin with the latest on the Lori Vallow case. She is the mom of 2 missing kids with ties to Arizona.
So she's now in the process of being brought to Idaho from Hawaii to face charges. She was recently arrested on several charges, including felony child abandonment.
Yeah, and just moments ago, the FBI put out some new information about the case. Justin Lum is live in Rexburg, Idaho, with the latest for us this afternoon. Justin, this case has been so interesting to follow, and you've got pretty much everything on it coming up to now.
Troy, Renee, like you said, another big development, breaking news just into our newsroom from the FBI in Salt Lake City, asking the public for tips on the 2 missing children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. We do know they visited Yellowstone National Park on September 8th, and you have to get a good look at these photos from that day. The FBI says their mom, Lori Vallow, her brother, Alex Cox, and the kids drove to the park in this 2017 Ford F-150 pickup. The license plate, CPQ-UINT, an Arizona license plate. And you should be looking at photos of the kids. And that day is the last time Tylee Ryan, the 17-year-old, was seen. JJ was last seen on September 23rd in Rexburg. If you visited the park on September 8th, authorities would like your help. Whether you have photos or video, you can call 1-800-THE-LOST. Meanwhile, Last night, before an 11:30 p.m. flight on Hawaiian time, Lori is seen walking out of this room where authorities held her. She is handcuffed and wearing civilian clothing. Then she got on a Delta plane, and I'm told she sat in the back row for this red-eye flight. And at around 7 a.m. Pacific time, Lori is getting off the plane at LAX with 4 law enforcement officials on the tarmac. Then she's eventually held in an unmarked car before the next flight. Kevin Lunt took these videos. He says many passengers on the flight out of Kauai recognized Lori Vallow right away.
She seemed to be pretty calm. I think that's probably the best word for it. Probably just pretty calm. I wouldn't say, maybe even nonchalant about it. Just seemed to be something that was happening, but she didn't seem to be in any sort of distress.
And back to the investigation into Yellowstone. Remember, Alex Cox died in December. The cause is still unknown, still waiting for that autopsy report. Now his sister, Lori, will be arriving here soon in Rexburg, and we will keep you updated on the end of this extradition process. Live in Rexburg, Justin Lum, Fox 10 News.